How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the Bot Podcast, where we interview movers, shakers, and innovators and talk all things conversational user interfaces. I'm your host, Chad Oda, and today we have a very special guest, Sharjeel Siddique. He is the CEO of Bothook. Bothook is a chatbot consulting agency that has built in-house tools to accelerate development and provide insight for their clients. Sharjeel and his team began experimenting with simple chatbots for their business all the way back in 2015 when Facebook had made the announcement at F8. So without further ado, welcome to the podcast, Sharjeel.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Chad.
Absolutely. So before we jump into more chatbot-specific questions and voice-specific questions, I always like to ask sort of a unique question based on our guests' unique background and their experience. So I know there's that sort of LinkedIn hashtag that's been floating around called When I Was 15, where people have been posting that and sharing their stories. So I saw you had posted it and you said when you were 15, you were starting your third online business. So I was wondering if you could give us a little insight into that, because I thought that was rather interesting.
Yeah. So before chatbot, before being into tech, before getting really seriously involved into this, I was introduced to the computers when I was 7 years old. But like most of the kids, I used to open MS Word, Paint, draw stupid stuff, play video games on it. All those 32-bit games that were available. So after that, the internet somehow came in. Like when I was 9 or 10 years, like internet was way back, but I was introduced to the internet when I was 8 or 9 year old. And somehow there was this word called websites. And I was curious, like, what is it, website? So I was a huge fan of WWE. So I always used to visit their website and see how, what is it about, get updated. So now the good part was that my brother was almost 10 years elder than me. And he was pretty much into the space. So like he was 19 or 20 at that time. He was pretty much into the same space, and I used to see him creating websites. So it's not that I asked anything for him. I just told, like, what do you do? Like, how do you create websites? Back then, there was a very popular web development tool called Microsoft FrontPage. It was a direct competitor for the Dreamweaver, the Adobe Dreamweaver.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, great. So I just downloaded FrontPage, and I went through, like, the internet was not filled up with a lot of tutorial content back then, so I somehow had to figure out my own ways, like how do we. So it was a basically static website where just you click and you go to another page. So I thought of, like, what do I like? I like wrestling, so I said let's make a wrestling fan website. So I pretty much got it in a month built. But I wouldn't say that was particularly a business, but it was something I did for fun. After a year, I thought, you can make money on websites. So I said, how do we do it? So I started a content creation website. So basically, it's like, basically it was a blog website, but back then something called blog wasn't popular. So I used to say, I post stuff about different cities, encyclopedia. So Wikipedia was the years that I'm talking about in 2007, 2008, Wikipedia was not that quite popular, like at least in my circle. So I started, encyclopedia of different cities, different countries, and I did ads. I did local ads. So basically, I used to email local businesses in my city and say that, I have, these many viewers, these many people come to my website. We have this many visitors, and they say, all right, that's great. I used to charge them flat fee, and they didn't know that behind the screen it's a 12-year-old guy who's asking. So it's pretty cool. They used to send me checks, and some of them used to tell me, "Can you come and meet me?" No, I can't. I'm a busy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of fun. I did that, and after that, again, it's sort of like it was fun, but I would say I wasn't consistent about it. then I shut it down, and I started another website called skyfrizz.com, which was actually letting user come in and post, sort of like a collaborative content environment. So again, this was a website I created, and so the thing was, this time I used Google AdWords. So it's around, I think, 14-year-old, and I took my mom's name and all that to put that credentials, link her bank account, and yeah, sort of like, because I was generating a good amount of traffic back then, so I made pretty decent money, $100, $200. So I want to be honest with you. At that age, the only thing I was interested about was making money. I was like, well, I don't get good, I don't have good pocket money. I don't have good allowance right now. I need to make huge money. So I pretty much, was obsessed about making money, figuring out ways how I can make money. So I tried Google AdWords, made a couple of $100 out of it. So it was good. And after that, the website is always running, but I'm always experimenting different stuff. I'm always into the software field because it's really, intrigued me how all things work. Because the interesting part was, of course, how I'm clicking this, and in just about a split second, it's being served to me. So I started learning all of that, and after a few years, like when I entered college, I had this idea that if I can surround myself with like-minded people, I will be more productive. I will be exposed to more, technology knowledge. So I said, okay, what can we do? So I built a community of, freelancers or programmers, and said, I used to interact with them. And slowly the idea came that, okay, why don't I create a co-working space? Because in my city, we had none. Basically, we had zero co-working space. The idea of co-working space didn't exist. The only idea close to that was a shared office space, which is, I would say completely different with co-working space, because if you can see, co-working space is more about community, it's about events, it's about, interacting, collaborating, it's had that energy of different sort. So I said, oh, this doesn't exist, but I see all this website, so in other parts of the country it does. So I came up with the idea to create a co-working space. And yeah, I did it. When I was 18, I started the very first co-working space in the city with a bunch of, since I had a pretty much built up community, I was able to, people sign up very early. But here's the thing that I learned by executing this. It's really, really hard to teach people the new stuff. So, if the thing was, when I started co-working space, people didn't know what is co-working space. And when you're bringing a new idea, they were always skeptical about it. They were always concerned about, is it for me or not? Is it going to work? Because all the calls I used to get were like, okay, I need 2 cabins, or, I need a private room. And I just explained that, you're going to be sitting right next to the guy who will not be in your company. And they get surprised. Oh, how can he sit next to me? The idea is bizarre. Like, I need my space. I need my personal space. And I used to tell them it's more about community. We want to do events. We want to make it interactive. So the very first year I struggled a lot because, I was not able to attract a decent amount of people. I had community, but basically they didn't have the purchasing power. So basically I had like small people coming in, just use the space for free. But I was, at the end of the day, it's about making money. It's about, if you want to sustain your business, you got to make profit. You got to, hold on to that. So, I tried really hard for almost a year, telling this idea that, co-working space is a lot different than a shared office space, and it's better. And a lot of people, so it's kind of like really hard for people to step out of that boundary and get into a new form. So a lot of people hesitated, but at the end of the day, since I was the first one, it was really tough. But after 3-4 months, everyone started up. So like, city exposed with co-working space. And then, we got covered in local newspapers and all, and everybody was like, okay, oh, this is a concept, co-working space. It's kind of weird, the guy will be, the guy who I don't know will be sitting right next to me, will not be from my company, but that's what's exciting because I can ask for help, we can network and that sort of thing. We can have fun. This sort of thing really, slowly got popularized in our city. So that was pretty interesting. So I learned that, okay, man, like, whenever a guy comes over to me and they say, I got this idea, no one thought about it. I said, that's the problem. Because that's the problem. No one has thought about it. If you're going to be the first guy who's going to execute it and, in a way it does not have a product market fit, it will be 10 times difficult to get customers. Although co-working space is a very nice idea that, you just paying for a seat and the rest is being taken care of you, but still there was this perception of a lot of people that, it does not suit us. So I saw that transition, and right now I think there are more than 30, 40 co-working space in the city, and pretty much the idea has proven itself to exist.
So it seems to me that you've always had sort of this entrepreneurial drive, all the way back to when you're 15, working on these internet marketing businesses. And, I think the uncertainty involved with starting a co-working space, right, where it's like untreaded territory, I think that's actually a really good segue to chatbots, right? Because also chatbots, maybe back when co-working spaces were unknown, chatbots now are sort of unknown. So we have to sort of struggle with those same uncertainties. But, I think as we make incremental progress as individuals and as companies and as the ecosystem as a whole, we're beginning to slowly see that little success, So I think this might actually be a really good segue to, maybe why don't you tell us a little bit more about the, product market fit or service market fit and market opportunity that your company, Bothook, is currently addressing?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, starting a co-working space always gave me a drive to be surrounded by really like-minded individuals. Then, I always so this was more of like, I was doing for fun. Like, this is something you're doing for yourself. Like, you're running podcasts because, you want to get the better out of the chatbot space. So we were for fun running a snack delivery startup. And so the idea was that, you get delivered snacks from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Okay, that sort of idea. So you ask for snack and send them. So there were different mediums we were thinking about. Okay, how are we gonna be selling it? Okay, we said, all right, we're gonna sell it through our website. We didn't thought about mobile ad, but our website, WhatsApp, call, you can even call us. And so different mediums that we were talking about to increase our sales. So all of a sudden, one day, Mark Zuckerberg, doing his F8, conference, and he introduces chatbots. And the only idea I have about chatbots are these are spammy bots because I've already used them. Back when I was a kid, when you go to Yahoo chats, all those spammy bots, and you go to the internet, these are spammy bots, and that's, he's just, in fact, I felt that, he's destroying his own platform with his own hands. Like, well, why does he want to do that? How stupid is he? And so I never gave the idea, but, I got, somewhere I stumbled onto ManyChat because I was just walking around, surfing around a product hunt, and I saw ManyChat. They just released their first messenger bot builder. I said, let's give it a try. So I started off and, put it on my Snackbox page, and turns out I was able to make a sale. And that was like, oh shit, like I just tried it out, and I never thought I would be able to make a sale. So I designed it in a way that there's very less NLP implementation or AI, ML. Much of that, if you interact with a lot of messenger bots, you're going to see they are menu driven. So button popping up depending on the context. So I was able to do that, but what I found was that since ManyChat was its initial state, it was a very buggy software. It used to break, it used to have a lot of problems. And so I had a very good technical partner with me. And I told him, look, this is something that worked for me, that worked for our startup. We were able to sell a few boxes out of chatbot, even though we didn't advertise it. So how about we, we build something that could be helpful for other people. Because a lot of businesses can take advantage of it, and I see the future. Because if you look at the millennial generation, most of us are on text, okay, and that's why a lot of companies are understanding the purchase behavior of millennials. They're totally different with previous generation. So the way they work, you might have also heard about how tourism has skyrocketed because that's the sort of millennial behavior is out there, right? Don't buy homes, go out for a holiday. So that sort of things, a lot of companies are learning it. And I think companies would really need to focus is that we are on Messenger, like we are always texting. I mean, if you take out your phone right now, I can guarantee you 90% of the time you'll be texting it. I don't care, like probably on the platform of WhatsApp, Messenger, Slack, I don't know, like some other, your SMS, or you are messaging. I am doing it, okay? The only apps that I barely use is for, it's on-demand services like Uber or Deliveroo or whatever. These are on-demand services. But if you talk about the proportion of the more amount of things you're spending on, on your phone is your texting, right? So this is something I felt like, okay, people are spending. And the second thing about is location. Every good business needs to have good location. Okay, you can't go up to some odd suburban area and put your business where the population is like 20 or 30 and sell something. Okay, you need to be at the center of the city where there's population, where there's platform. So Facebook is a really awesome platform. More than 2 billion users right now, but if Messenger has more than 1 billion users. I said, okay, Messenger has more than 1 billion users. There's already public out there. There's already people out there. I don't have to tell them to download their apps. I don't have to tell them to, all right, you'll just 60 seconds and get started, because they know it. As soon as I send them the Messenger, they're getting started in 10 seconds. And that was amazing. That I felt the vision was strongly towards the Messenger bot becoming really big, and I still believe that. It's not that I've changed my opinion on it. So I said to him, like, let's create our own. And so we did. We created our own Messenger bot builder. But it was very simple. I would say not as fully equipped as ManyChat. We sort of got, I would say we didn't end up getting paying customers. But we sort of, were experimenting how to do it. We sort of thought, when we saw the market slowly had everyone popping off, like, every other company coming up with their own bot builders. So we said, all right, this is getting tough now. I mean, the kind of thing, and it's getting hard to compete with all these guys coming up with bot builders. And there's only going to be a couple of winners here in the market share. So we then turned into a service company. That was a part of it. And regarding the product market fit thing, I would say when product market fit happens, everything gets taken over. Like everything, it's taken care. So the only thing you have to worry about is supply, because that's I mean, if you read Mark Anderson blogs about product market fit, it actually makes sense, because when you're going to hit that moment where people are excited about your product and you're solving a very crucial problem, and that's when you will learn that, okay, this needs to exist. This needs to be out there. And that's what I think about messenger marketing. A lot of people say, no, messenger marketing is just, a trial thing. These are just companies who have just raised money and they're just burning money. There's not this is just another Google Glass, that's going to fail. But I think that's not true, because we have case studies. That the way I judge a product, I say, give me a case study. Give me how have you helped a company? Because you can have like 1 million users. Look at Google Plus. They have they have too many users, but they have very, very low retention. They have very low engagement on their platform. Maybe, I don't know. They're just keeping it for the sake of just keeping Facebook on check. Okay, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't be going. I don't know. I think it's just to piss off Facebook. Like, hey, you do something wrong, we already in there in this business. So, I mean, the thing is, that's the thing. you can't do that. I mean, you need to have a case study. You need to show that, all right, I helped my client, grow their business into this level, X level, X plus level. So that's the sort of thing you need to have, and that is necessary. So that's what I think that, unless you have case studies, you don't have a good product. So product market fit is, I would say, the toughest thing to do out of all the startups that I've done, like out of all the startups that I've started, that was the moment, product. And once you have product market figured out, the only thing you need to worry about is operations, competing. That, I would say, that's still tough. Starting a company is really hard. It's really, really hard. But, product market fit, kind of aces your pain. It suits you. So in that way, so we turned into a product, into a service company, and it's pretty much going good about it, I would say, for now.
Cool. No, that's great to hear. And, you sort of touched on actually a few additional questions I was going to ask. It sounds like, you were running a pre-existing company and you wanted to test out this new channel, and you were like, what the heck, I'm going to try this. And then you started seeing some initial wins. And when you see that initial purchase in anything, it's like, okay, there might be something here, right? And that sounds like that was maybe the initial catalyst to propel you to sort of, add more energy into this specific channel. So that's really interesting. Can you maybe talk about some of the other initial challenges or initial successes that you saw, as you guys begin to scale these solutions out? Like, what were those initial wins? Because I know you're a huge proponent of case studies. If you can talk about some of those, I think that would be really interesting to the audience.
Yeah, great. So challenges are a good word. So I would had a bit of concern with chatbot. Like, I had a doubt in the chatbot space because, I started out saying that, all right, this is it. I did sales, so should other business people should do sales. And that was great, to start off with. The first client I got, when we turned into a service company, was basically a company who wanted to build a game around chatbot. So it went well. So, I went on there. It was a big enterprise company, and we delivered to it. And the kind of disappointment I felt was that after 3 months when I went to them and I asked them, how's your bot doing? They said, no, it's that was a poor decision to do something like that. And I kind of felt like, oh, damn, I thought it's going to work. I mean, it's going to be sort of engagement. Then what happened next was that, we get another client, and he basically wanted so the clients we were getting was basically people like us who are excited about new technology. Oh, everybody's going to be on this texting, so I'm going to put everything on texting. That's a good thing to think about it. But they were not people, they were not kind of running real businesses, but they were really people who also thought that, all right, chatbot's going to be big space, so I'm going to be in this space. So then we thought that, all right, he came over to us and said, I want a Bitcoin trading platform on chatbot. I want to trade Bitcoin while texting. The idea looks cool, when you go around and tell people like, hey, think about it, I'm just chatting and I'm sending you Bitcoin, isn't it amazing? But it turns out that didn't work. I'm not sure pretty much if it was because of marketing, but what I know is that no one would like to trade Bitcoin on texting, because the thing about Bitcoin trading is that if you look at different exchanges, there's lots of content that you can see. There's graphs, there's comparison, there's detail about what was a price in week before, and you can't fit all that model on chatbot. I mean, you can't turn it into conversation and send it along and say, and it can't be like, hey, what was the price 2 weeks ago when he's sending you back? You just gotta click and see it. Okay, the whole experience gets worse. I mean, you're not actually adding any value when you're doing this. So that sort of thing, I felt, all right, it was a wrong case thing. After 3 months, I was with the client. It's like, nah, nobody's using it. It's like we didn't get anything. Like, I mean, we were paid, of course, but when you're doing something, you want to make sure you create a value for someone. That's the first thing that I think always. And the fact that, 2 or 3 clients got nothing out of a chatbot, I was very skeptical about it. Then I read a couple of articles and they say chatbots are hype. They're going down. They were just here for 2017, 2018. Please, no chatbots, because they're just hype. They're nothing but hype. They don't do it as they promise. Now, I learned, I think the challenges were kind of, demotivating me to run the company and really be in the chatbot space, because I was totally into it and believing that this is going to revolutionize. This is the mobile of 2008, the way the trend set up. So I felt like, all right, it's not working, I guess. And I read a couple of articles. And then I realized that media hyped it too much. I mean, media was the one who, brought in this old use cases that was not even close to what chatbot is supposed to do. I think you talked about misconceptions, right? I think the biggest misconceptions that people have about chatbot is that it will replace employees. I think that is really, the very big misconception people have, that it will replace employees. It can. And people expect it to talk like with human emotions. It can't do that either. Okay? And the AI and machine learning was hyped in such a big way that everyone felt like, okay, if I ask for a job, I mean, they had a huge, I would say, a lot of expectation from the product, from chatbots. I felt like, no, it doesn't do any of that. I mean, look at this. This is not what it meant to do. So I tried out, again, another, thinking about what we could do. Then we came up with a couple of use cases that it actually can be used for. It turns out that, yeah, it's good with sales because we did it. We were able to do it. And I read different case studies that other people are also doing, because, people are saying, oh, I'm selling, T-shirts and mobile covers on my Facebook page. That's a good thing. We thought, if you look at messenger marketing, you may know that, messenger marketing is all about, I would say collecting subscribers, adding subscribers. And, subscribers is basically a person who's interested in your brand or product. So it works as a newsletter. And look at it this way. Emails have like 10% at max open rate. Messenger has like 90% open rate, which is huge. But I think this thing is going to go if we create bad chatbots. I've talked about it a lot of time, is that, let's not bad chatbots, like, constantly messaging them. If you're making the platform spammy, then people will have that same sort of view on Messenger, like, why bother opening? Because I get lots of spammy messages. And I think Facebook did a good job keeping it under control from the very beginning, that it did not allow this sort of spammy stuff. So that was the challenges I faced, and all of a sudden, I realized that with messenger marketing, you can grow your brand. And the way you do it is that running ads. So running ads and chatbots go together. And the way it works is that you might have seen it all around the internet. If you dig deep into the messenger marketing, is that, you run ads. There's a growth hacking thing called, there's a growth hacking stuff like, if you say like, if anyone is interested, type yes. As soon as the user type yes, he gets subscribed. You can send him back and forth messages. And the other thing is that running an ad and, keeping a call to action button as a send message. The other growth hacking stuff is that putting the chat widget on your website, and then, people interacting, they become subscribers, or just simply a button on your website. So these sort of things, I felt like, all right, these things are working. So at least, the thing is that messenger marketing is working. And I've read a lot of stuff about it, and I can say that, yes, it's here to stay. As long as the platform is clean and nothing goes wrong with it. It's pretty much, I would say.
No, I think those are some great initial challenges, because I think especially with any new technology, we're often trying to find, as quickly as possible, what are good use cases for this new technology? And I think all of us were sort of scratching our heads a little bit and we were trying to create chatbots for every single use case and every single thing. So, there's like a bit of a leveling off effect that occurs when we begin to identify what use cases are best suited for this new technology. And I think that's sort of the initial growing pains that you guys saw on the front lines, right? You guys didn't have the luxury of reading Chatbot Magazine and reading, these are the top 3 use cases, right? You guys had to experiment on your own. So I think those are great learning tools. And I'm sure you guys learned a lot from them. And then you were sort of talked about following those use cases, you guys began to sort of see, okay, these are best practice growth hacking, tools that are working, right? Can you maybe talk a little bit about some of the initial successes that you saw following, some of the initial challenges?
Successes on chatbot, or ARC as a company.
Right. So, so I know you talked about some of the case studies that you guys have on chatbots. Can you talk a little bit about some of those successes that you guys have seen?
Oh yeah, of course. The one of the thing is, I would say, lead generation. So what we have seen is that if you have a website and if a visitor is browsing your website, going around surfing the website, if you have a little chat widget pop up right bottom to the bottom right, I think it works like magic because pops up and it's trying to give you a human-like experience. People don't like filling forms and these sort of things. So I would say lead generation is one of the use cases that worked out for us. Collecting more and more leads with that. Having a chat widget on the website. The other use case is that we built it for a client was that mobile app. So the client basically runs the company was basically food delivery startup. So on the part of the logistics. So how delivery works. Right? So it's a logistic company where picks food from the restaurant and delivers to the house. So they wanted a chatbot, and it actually works really great for them. So usually chatbot is for the repetitive mistakes users make, or repetitive questions or queries that goes along with it. So we design in the way, if you come in on chatbot, it's like, if you come for the help desk, we ask you, a couple of questions, what happened? And we give you choices, buttons like, you could say like, my food didn't get delivered, or it could say I want to change my order, I want to cancel my order, these sort of things. And we have seen that very little when we provide with them these sort of options and these sort of conversational flow, very little does user want to talk to an agent, very little. So it has totally, I would say, minimized the agent intervention by more than 50%, which is good for now. Considering the fact the limitation in NLP and AI we have in today's world, which was great actually. So 50% down. So people have this very, regular queries like, why is it taking long? Or, to change my order. Because if you look at startups like these, these are only the problem that can go wrong. Right? What are the problems and all that stuff? So we realized that, okay, you don't need an agent for this, okay? It's not something like, it's not a big, it's not Apple that, it has like 1,000 products or, it's just a logistic company that can take care of, providing you food. So we learned that they were quickly able to adapt to the chat, and they loved it. I mean, it's not that it completely solved their problem. Of course, there were many times that, agent had to step in. So I would say the fact that it's solving some of the problem is quite interesting. And I think I've said it before, and I'll say it again, is that the chatbot growth is totally dependent on the technology of AI and on the advancement of AI and machine learning. Yeah, let me put it this way. It's totally dependent on the advancement of AI and machine learning. One example I could give you is that look at the web right now. We never thought we could do Google Docs online. We always had software, a separate package software that used to come 10 years ago. And now we have it on Google Docs. You can do the same thing what you would be doing in Microsoft Word. And how did this happen? Is because I would say, our browsers got really smart. That's the first thing. Our browser came up with great developer tools. Now, just, it's not just view page source. You can, have a good diagnostic within itself. If you're writing JavaScript, you can totally check into it, like what's going wrong in this element. What's happening? Why is the network not calling? Why the button is not working? And these sort of, when you give the developer an option with these sort of tools, that's when innovation happens. And look at the web right now. It's amazing. I mean, you can do a lot of things. You can photo edit right within your website. So you don't have a separate software for that if you want to do a simple online photo editing. And I think I would credit this all to the advancement of technology, the way it works. So right now, everybody's stepping into it. Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, all the big players are getting into it because they know there's something that exists in it. And yes, we have limitation. Yes, we are still facing challenges with regards to the good products. But the fact is, once we figure this thing out, it's going to be amazing. We're going to see a lot of innovation into it. And it's not like we're not progressing. You can see the fact that if you look at 10 years ago and now, we have changed a lot. We have stepped up a level. And with these big companies putting huge money on AI and ML, it's going to be totally a different horizon. And the thing is, a lot of these companies are encouraging people to step into AI and ML. There's something called open AI, you may have heard of, because people want more and more people to come in, create this community, create this, AI very advanced. And Google is actually offering free courses for people to learn AI and machine learning, so that, the more people you get on board, the more of a problem we can solve. So that's the thing I would say. It's totally dependent on the advancement of AI and machine learning. So
definitely. No, I think those were some great use cases. I think the use cases that you guys have been seeing success in are the two use cases that, I've seen all throughout the internet right now as ones that are yielding ROI, right? Customer support, as well as lead generation and lead qualification. So I think that's very much in line with the other successes from other companies that we see. And I think you're absolutely right in the sense that a lot of these use cases initially were overhyped. We were sold, these chatbots can address everything. These chatbots can totally automate jobs. These chatbots can blah, blah, blah. And, the reality is that they're all bounded, as you have said, by namely the technology, natural language understanding, natural language processing, as well as the best practices from a user experience perspective. A lot of these things have not really been defined. And we're out here sort of experimenting and saying, okay, if we put this sentence in here, does it get them to convert to this point here in the chatbot, right? Or, if we leverage NLP with context and state management, can we scale out a customer support bot that knows who they are the next time they come around? And how difficult or easy is it to scale those implementations out? So I think you're absolutely right. There are a lot of obstacles, or the way I think we look at them, opportunities to go out there and create a lot of cool stuff. So, speaking of where we're at today and where we need to get to, I'm also curious from your perspective with your business, what is like your vision or exit strategy for Bothook? Where do you see you guys going in the next several years? Like what's your goal?
All right, just like we're looking for opportunity actually, because I always tell that we're in the right space. We want to go all into it, so it's not like, oh, let's just move out if it doesn't work out, because we believe chatbots are going to work. Banks are using it, and a lot of companies are using it. Slowly, there's an adoption for it. So the strategy is always long term. That's why we sort of are very, we discourage investment, saying that, oh, let's just be bootstrapped for now. I mean, let's just try to figure out it. At the same time, the exit strategy is kind of depends. If we get to be with a team that believes in chatbot as much as we do, and they want us to be part of this future. So I would definitely think about it. As long as we get to do things that is within what I have thought of. So as long as it's within our vision, and if that company also thinks the same way, because I've seen a lot of mergers of chatbot companies with CRM softwares, because they believe that chatbots are going to be a big thing, so they have bought chatbot companies. So it's totally going to depend on the situation, because I don't want to sell to a guy who's just going to make it feel like this was useless anyway. So I don't want I don't want our company to be turning into that. That's one thing. That's about it. I mean, we would like to grow this into a. So like I said, we're a service company right now, but I told we're coming up with a product called Bot Life. So Bot Life is basically what I talked about the first use case. It's lead generation and help desk. So it does not completely eliminate agents or human resource, but it kind of minimizes it. It kind of holds the conversation, for a user. So we're coming up with that because we thought it worked great. So we're starting off with websites. We want to put it on all the websites to have that sort of thing, because if you have a website, oftentimes you want to talk to a guy to learn more about the product. But if you have FAQ fit in, and if there's a bot replying to that, that'll be a cool thing to do. And we're coming up with that. So the whole idea is right now to ignore everything and just focus on building cool stuff in regards to chatbots. That's
strategy.
Yeah, that's our strategy. I mean, we see a lot of companies coming off, but we said, let's just focus on ourselves, and that's unnecessary. I mean, this is off topic, but I just want to tell that people who are in chatbot space right now, it's a very risky thing, actually, since it's still not a proven thing. So it hasn't hit that big mark where you can say, just like mobile apps have done it. No, it hasn't hit that mark. So it's kind of But think about this. WhatsApp was only able to grow its user base to such a level because they were the very first messaging app on Apple Store, or I would say more active messaging app. And one of the growth hack that his co-founder shared was that they always used to edit their app and push it to Apple Store, because Apple had, at that time in 2008, something called new apps or updated new trending apps. They always used to pop up over there, As soon as they go down, they again edit the code, they put it. I mean, this was something they were able to do. This was something they were able to grow their user base. Of course, WhatsApp works with network effect model, which is basically if your friend's on it, so the other friend's gonna be on it. That's right. How it works. But it picked the initial stage. And think about it. If it had come down in 2015, late to the market, late to the mobile apps, I think it would have never been a $20 billion company. It would have never been bought for $20 billion company. The only fact that they trusted mobile apps, because even then in 2008, people were skeptical. Okay, is it going to work? It's a stupid idea. No, it's not good. I know mobile apps, it doesn't work. Laptops are great. But they believed in it. They say no, and the idea was also kind of stupid. We have SMS. Why would we want to have Messenger? But they stick to it. So two things going to happen. It's either you're going to get really big because, the industry or the space really, had all the potential, or it's just going to be another sad day saying, oh, no, market never needed it. You just created something that, was, maybe ahead of its time, or, it doesn't work out. So
yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I think you bring up an interesting point. I was thinking about what you said about how they sort of had a growth hack to get their app on the front of the App Store. And speaking of App Store, or a version of an App Store for chatbots, I don't think they really exist yet. And it's very bad user experience right now for discoverability, whether that's with chatbots, but especially for voice. When you look at the Discover feature on Facebook Messenger, I don't think it's developed in such a way where I can find really good bots. There's no reviews. There's not a lot of information about how to find these bots intuitively. So I think that just goes to show, to your point, at how immature the market is still, right? It's getting easier to build bots. It's getting, a little bit easier to understand what is the best UX. Still very immature, but it's getting easier to build these things. So that's half the battle, right? The other battle is, how do we scale discoverability? How do we make people, or make it easier for people to adopt them? So you are absolutely right. There is this nascent nature of chatbots right now. So I think that goes to the point that you're making about, you really, we're first to market right now. I think there's sort of 4 ways to compete from a business standpoint: first, best, only, or you cheat, right? You don't want to cheat because you go to jail if you do that. You can't really be only, and then unless you have like a government sanctioned monopoly. So you really can only be first or best. And I think we have a really great opportunity to be first in a number of different verticals or use cases. So I think there's significant opportunity that's in store for us. But speaking of chatbots, and speaking of, sort of your vision of an exit strategy and envisioning what bots can be several years from now, one question for you: have you used a bot today that you thought was a really great experience that you walked away from? It could be a bot, or also say if it's a voice experience too.
You thought it was a good experience bot?
Right. No, you personally, you walked away from the chat bot or that voice bot and you were like, man, this is a really great experience.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Hold on a second. I would say, let me just check it's Mitsuku. You know it?
Yeah, you're the second person that's actually mentioned that, because I think they actually won some awards, right?
Yeah, Mitsuku. Yeah, so that was a really interesting bot that I've seen. It also was, reacting to the emotional touches, emotional text that I was sending. So I would say this was close to what we have envisioned as in chatbot. So Mitsuko was really interesting. I've interacted a lot of bots, and a lot of them come up with "I don't understand." So Mitsuko, I mean, the way it was designed is that instead of saying I don't understand, it's sort of designed in a way where it's trying to deviate from that. Okay, it doesn't say I don't understand. It try to search on the Google. So that sort of thing. So I felt like, okay, it's not giving up. It's not like, I can't do it. I need human intervention. So,
and I think that's a really interesting point that you're making, because in normal conversations like we're having here, this is how normal people talk, right? We start getting to a subject that we don't really know a lot about. So we change the subject, right? We change the topic. And, I think that's what that bot is good at doing. But I think, if we look at it through a magnifying glass, we begin to delineate task-driven bots versus topic-driven bots. And I think that's why Mitsuku is a very good topic-driven bot, in the essence that it can sort of dynamically jump between topics, but also when it's brushing up against something it doesn't really know, it can sort of diverge into something else, and it could still seem very organic to us.
Yeah, I mean, users always want the best experience. Like, if your chatbot is below average, they're going to be kind of pissed off. So at par with a smartness level of a human, honestly, if I want to talk with anyone, I want to talk to a person smarter than my caliber. And this is what is expected out of chatbots. People want to use chatbots that can help them, that are smart enough for them to rely on, that may fail, but what they do, they should do it smartly and in an impressive way.
Agreed with that entirely. I think, when I actually play with bots or voice experiences, that's my go-to thing. Let me break it and let me see how they handle the exception handling or the fallback intent. Like, what is that experience? And depending on that experience, I automatically judge whether this is a good or a bad experience. Maybe it's just that we're too hard on these bot experiences and our expectations are too high. But I think that's a real litmus test for, how good the bot is. I think you're absolutely right with that. Maybe switching gears a little bit to moving away from the best experience. Let's maybe go back and talk about some of the obstacles and challenges that currently persist in the chatbot and voice space that we need to sort of solve or tackle in order to get to this next, sort of idealized vision of chatbots. And I know you mentioned some of them earlier, and we were talking about sort of the NLP is not where it needs to be now, or the user experience best practices don't really exist. If you can sort of talk a little bit more about where you personally see these current obstacles or challenges, I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, so the current challenges for me has always been user intent. So understanding, and that comes under NLP. So understanding user intent, and the other thing is, so it's more of like a technical ability, understanding context. We have talked about, if you look at current chatbots, even if you try out Siri, the conversation does not go with the context. So if you say something in the middle, it will not go back and read what you were talking about. It was, take it as a new set of text or speech. So that sort of thing is, I would say, really challenging right now. Other thing is user language. Understanding usage of slang, certain words, habit of misspelling certain words, because everybody has a different way of typing. So, there's like, some people use cool words, and the list can go on. So, it all boils down to NLP. The moment we have a perfect NLP and AI, that's the moment that everything's going to change. Like, everybody's going to be on this train, so it's more of a technical ability. Now, coming to another part is people trusting on it. So there's not a big market trust that I believe right now. When you talk about chatbots, they're like, they only have the perception that, okay, using customer support, they don't look at different use cases that can help their businesses, that can help them with chatbot. So there's limited, discoverability about chatbot. There's limited knowledge about chatbot among the masses. So always people think like, oh, it's just some, random bot. It's just Siri. So it's kind of like, so there's not much market awareness about how chatbot could be useful. So that sort of thing is also part of it. And as you can see, chatbots, people are coming off with crazy use cases with chatbots, and we have still to discover more. Banks are using it a different way. Several companies are using to manage their servers. We actually created a chatbot where you can, from Slack, you can manage your Jira, which is a product management tool. So that sort of is kind of saving time. And for big companies, even 10 seconds means a lot to them. So we're seeing that different use cases come off in chatbot. The other thing is, I would say, we are totally dependent on the advancement of technology. And I think Google Duplex was an amazing sneak preview to what's in store for future. Because when we think about how the future is going to be, it's pretty much going to be voice, right? It's pretty much going to be voice. It's pretty much going to be, hey, instead of opening app and ordering food, you're going to be like, hey, Alexa, give me nice food from the restaurant I ordered yesterday, and boom, I'm sending you right away. Or things like, book me an Uber in 2 minutes. Now this is kind of like really amazing to think about it. So it slowly is happening, but the other thing, challenges, of course, text to speech. There are different sort of tone, there's a different variation of how a person speaks. There's a different way. There's also a concern towards languages because we have lots of people who don't speak English, so we gotta look into that because we also know that Chinese or Hindi, Arabic, Spanish, and all that. But it's going to be interesting if you look in the way that if we can figure it out. but we're doing it. We are making a progress. There are companies out there who truly believes in it, and I personally believe in it. So it's been 2 years. It was hell of a ride for a year because we were not able to really see any scope in the space and always drag down saying, all right, it's not going to be big. But as soon as we're seeing a lot of people, businesses adopt the idea that yes, it does not completely solves the problem, but somehow minimizes it. So companies are kind of okay with this products of chatbot.
Definitely.
I've also talked about there's another chatbot where it's helping companies hire HR. So again, it's not solving the problem. It's not a bot that completely is, doing the, processing the applicant and, onboarding him onto a job, but it's actually filtering out. Then again, it's a thing that I've talked about. It's minimizing it. It's sort of helping in some way.
I agree. I think, we need to re-educate people. So it's more about this augmentation use case, not this automation use case, right? And I think, you're right. I think it's this huge education thing, but you pointed out sort of an exhaustive list of, all of these different issues that we need to address in order to get to this future, right? And I think we all have different visions of what this future will become. But speaking of that, do you mind sort of sharing what your vision is of, once all these chatbots and voice comes to fruition, what is like your vision of the future?
In regards to chatbot, yeah. So I talked about it. Like, my vision is simple. That you don't. So you see, we have too many apps right now on our phones here, right? So I think there's going to be one platform, most probably Messenger, Facebook Messenger, that's going to sit there, and for all your, couple of use cases, like barber shop or, ordering food. I think there's only going to be pages already built on there. So right now the apps are saturated. There are too many for everything. We're going to cut down to chatbots. And I'm thinking that Messenger is going to be that, where it's going to say, oh, you need a haircut, let's just, talk it down with chatbot and finish it. The other thing I imagine is, I would say, Alexa doing it, a voice. So I'm talking about, keeping your routine, understanding, right now it's does much of the thing, but being more natural towards you. Like, you can talk like you're talking to your friend, and you can do interesting stuff. Basically, you won't feel lonely any day because, you will always have someone to talk to. So it's going to be, I'm believing it's we got a little bit preview from Google Duplex. Somehow the virtual assistant was, human-like, had a human-like voice. So it was kind of interesting how far we have come. So even I felt that, it was human talking to her, but it was actually a bot. So it's interesting. So we're going to have, in regards to speech, in regards to voice, we're not going to have any more robotic voices coming out there. It's going to be like, oh, my friend's booking a cab for me, or, my friend's doing it for me. So chatbot's going to be for that. So intents. So that's all the intents are going to be done by your chatbot assistant. And on text, it's probably the Messenger. If all things goes well, who's going to dominate. If not, besides Messenger, I believe every app will have some sort of a help desk chatbot built into it. So that's one of the features, I think, because when we deliver the chatbot inside an app for a food delivery company, they were really happy with the results. And that's one use case that was able to solve the help desk. I'm pretty sure there's going to be many more who will be able to solve these sort of queries or these sort of challenges that comes along with running business. So that's my sort of vision. So I'm excited, and hopefully let's see what's going to happen.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great vision that sort of incorporates, what we see today and sort of projecting that on, what the future can be. If we're essentially abstracting out a lot of the complexity that we deal with today, like 20 apps, and then maybe that gets down to just one interface that we're talking to, that we can sort of connect to a multitude of different services or voice or Google Duplex. So I think that that makes a ton of sense. Now, I guess speaking of today, right, where we're at today, can you share with the audience any best practices that you have discovered yourself that you've seen working very well, whether it's from an NLP or UX or development standpoint? What have you seen that works really well?
Make the use of NLP very less. Make the use of text very less. So that's what I think is the best practice for now, for the current stage. You have, the limitation does not mean we can't build good products. The limitation means we need to find a workaround. And Messenger started out all these platforms are doing it a great way, not just Messenger. They have started out with buttons, carousels, and radio buttons, and check boxes, those sort of quick replies. They basically putting forward elements in the conversation. Some chatbots also add in date pickers. So it's just like, you're following through the commands. It's like you're not missing anything. So chatbots are more good for, if you want to have users concentrate and follow through. Okay, so after only something is triggered, the next message will be replied. So that's sort of a bit, best practice, I would say. Design in a way where you get the complete attention of the user, where it reads up, add a lot of emoticons, wherever is necessary. Emoticons somehow somehow gives you the idea that, all right, if you add a celebrating emoticons, okay, he's talking about something useful to me. If, you talk about a disappointing, he gets a caution behavior. So add a lot of emoticons, add images into it, make the conversation fun, make it, you can't make it human-like, of course, but at least you can try to make it close to it and make use of, don't make people, the only thing you probably should collect is email numbers and small text into it, not essays, because then if you fail to, if you fail to compute that, then it will come down as a bad product. I mean, you will be, named as, users are going to hate that experience and probably ultimately hate the product that you have built. At the end, it will hate chatbots, thinking that they're going to do nothing. So I would say, take very little text for now. Even if you're taking text, do a lot of validation to it. So if he enters a wrong email address, ask him you need to enter the right email address. If he enters a wrong number, it's, ask him for a right number. If you're taking other things like location, try to see, what you can do is that you can Google Map search and see if it really exists or not. If it does not, you could be like, oh, you sent a wrong location to us. This sort of things you could validate. I mean, whatever you're collecting, you need to send a kind of validation. What you shouldn't be saying that, oh, okay, sir, tell me your problem. And that guy goes on to explain 10 or 20 lines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that is something you need to avoid. You need to avoid as much as text as possible. You don't need AI. You don't need NLP. It's not the fact that, oh, I don't need AI. It's going to be a worse product. No, I think it's going to be the best product. I mean, even without using it, you can create really good chatbots. And that's what I think.
I think those are great tips. You're absolutely right. I think it's identifying the limitations of the technology and the best practices that we know thus far and operating inside of those things to still create very compelling experiences. Because, I think I have the same sentiment as you when it comes to dividing the use cases in regard at a very high level of when to use, on Rails conversations and when to use NLP, and I see there's a lot of confusion in the space right now. And sometimes people are using NLP in conversion-based activities. I don't think that is a very good strategy because there's too many edge cases trying to use NLP to convert them to some end goal, right? There's too much opportunity where they fall off the rails and now it's a bad experience, right? On the other hand, there are use cases such as customer support where NLP can work very well. But in that same context, there are still limitations. So operating within those things gives us the best outcome. So absolutely agree with you there. So speaking of best practices, you've read a lot of articles and posts and case studies and watched videos online. Just for the audience, for people that are just getting started in chatbot building, are there any specific resources or people or videos you think people should check out?
Yeah, of course. There are a lot of so there's a there's a mini chat course that's for free online. I did that, just to get around my hand on mini chat. That is definitely something I would like to try. People to try out. And Google is a really nice place. It's not like I'm the only blogs that I follow are Chatbots Magazine and Chatbots Life. You need to be in a lot of Facebook groups because pretty much they're active in chat and in the chatbot space, and anyone having doubts, anyone having challenges regularly post into it, and you sort of get it, the idea. It's kind of interesting. The other thing I wanted to talk about is privacy in chatbots because it's necessary. This is something I wanted to address, even though I wasn't asked, and that is just keep in mind whatever you're typing is being read. That's the thing I would say. So never, ever, ever give your credentials in chatbot. Never. Unless you are being opted to go to another web page where there's a HTTPS running around, then yes, it's a good thing. So just in the best practices, I forgot. So I'm just, mentioning it because I see that whatever you're going to type on chatbot, it's going to be a safe space, but the other person, the admin or person who created a bot, he will be able to read everything. So if you ever being asked to, give away sensitive information, please don't do that. It's not a right place to do it. We haven't perfected the encryption in the bot interface right now, so please avoid that.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably a real reason why a lot of these chatbot companies and a lot of the NLP companies that I see are not compliant for a lot of these regulatory standards, whether it's HIPAA compliance or whether it's compliant for the financial sector. And, I think you may have a very similar standpoint that I do that, for capturing sensitive structured data, I think having web views are a must at this point. And I think it sounds like you guys implement those things in some of your chatbots. It's certainly something that we do on our end. And I do believe that it is a best practice for the time being, because you're right. Regardless of how scrupulous the person is that is the administrator or the person that's looking at these chat logs, it's still a significant security risk. If you ask anyone from the InfoSec community, they'll tell you a terrible idea, right? Terrible idea. So I think having those sort of web views integrated into these chatbot experiences is a really smart way to go about things. But that is a great point because I don't think we hear enough people in the community touch on the security aspect of things, especially with all the GDPR stuff that's been sort of proliferating in the last several weeks. I think that's a very timely insight. So at that note, I will sort of give you a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes. You can tell the people, where they can find you, if you're going to be at upcoming conferences or what kind of updates that Bothook may be announcing in the near future.
Sure. I'm pretty much active on LinkedIn, on Facebook, so I keep posting stuff in relation to chatbots and entrepreneurship. So you can find me on Facebook. My name is Sharjeel Siddique. Chat probably you can help me out with the post when you post it. On LinkedIn, same name, Sharjeel Siddique. And So I'm also active on Medium, so I keep posting about the stuff that I do in regards to the company and all that sort of things. And I'm probably going to be in this San Francisco, this coming chatbot conference in San Francisco. So yeah, we could catch up.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, so you're coming down to San Francisco for the, is it the, trying to remember, I think it's the one that Stefan is running, right? Is that the one? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to come down. I might have to make a trip out there too, because, so I live in Seattle, so I might have to make a trip down to San Francisco and go catch up with all you guys down there.
Yeah, sure. It'd be amazing to meet you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my last question before, we conclude here, I always ask all my guests this. And, anytime you are in a startup or in a emerging field or emerging technology, you're always faced with all these challenges, right? So what is it that keeps you motivated and inspired as someone that's going up against all these huge challenges? Like what is that for you?
Well, to be honest, we started out with 2. Now we are a team of 8. So whenever I enter the office, I see, people working around. That's a big motivation. And I feel like, damn, if we close the doors, these 6 people are going out of job. Some of them, 2 of them have families. So I don't want them to go home and say, I got sacked or, the company just went down. So I always felt like, we're going to build this, we're going to build the momentum because we can't let the people down. People are working over here and we always need to be, doing something to thrive the company. So that is something that always keeps me motivated that, all right, these guys are putting in effort, these guys are coming in, it's, to be honest, for a guy who's talented, choosing a startup, it's kind of a big risk, when you have an option or working for a big corporate company and then, however you deciding to come work for a startup, that's basically like they're trusting me that, okay, this is going to be something. So that is something that motivates me every day. It's like, when I enter the office, I see people working, I say, all right, I can't let them down. I can't let them go home and say that, we lost our job. So, or, the company went down, we didn't make profit. And every time that's the thing I also tell my employees is that, whatever the decision you're making, think of, you're part of the company, would it increase something of ours? Will it be some of the metric that's going to grow for us? So that's one thing that keeps you motivated. And second is, of course, the impact that you can bring into this world. That's amazing to know that when, people come and say, oh man, because of you, we did 2 or 3 more sales. Oh, thank God, we increased, our traffic. It's always, I think no amount of money can, give you that joy, what sort of people coming in and, expressing their, joy towards you and telling you that how amazing work we have done. So that keeps you motivated always. And, that's what's, making us still run this thing.
I think those are all really, really powerful and inspiring motivations. Sharjeel, appreciate your time, appreciate your expertise and your insights on this podcast today. We'll definitely have to have you come back on when you guys have some more announcements and talk about some more cool things. Definitely appreciate you being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you very much, Chad.
Cool. Take care.
Take care. Bye.